yeah, you cannot be fake in jiu-jitsu. It's the best tool for making you be real with yourself. People put up a front, like a face, you know, they want to project a certain image onto the world and have everyone think they are a certain way or their life is a certain way. It doesn't matter how cool your Instagram is. When you're on the jiu-jitsu mat, you have to be real with yourself. Like, you are who you are, and all you have is your skills, your intelligence, and your mental fortitude. You can't pretend to be good at jiu-jitsu. You can't walk around with a big poofy chest and invisible lats with your arms poofed out if you can't back it up in a jiu-jitsu match. So I think all of a sudden you realize, oh, people are a lot more humble in jiu-jitsu, right? You can't walk around like the alpha male because you'll probably just get wrecked by the whole squad.
Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Hinger!
I started jiu-jitsu on July 2nd, 2003. I never stopped training. I had one hiatus. It was during 2008 when I was in the Peace Corps. That was a blue belt then. And then what that made me realize was not being able to do jiu-jitsu for 2 years. I realized that I love jiu-jitsu and that's really all I want to do. So I moved back to the States and I started teaching jiu-jitsu as a purple belt, and I was doing jiu-jitsu full-time for 3 years. But I always had a goal to go to grad school. Like, that was always my goal, to go to grad school and get a master's degree. So I left Tucson, I went to Indiana, I went to grad school for 3 years, got a master's degree. And then that's where I met Andre Galvao at a seminar. And we got along really great. I asked him to be my coach. He said yes. And then he kept telling me, come to San Diego, come to San Diego. He's like, I'll make you a world champion. Like, just give me 1 year and I'll make you a world champion. And I was like, oh, okay, I gotta finish school though, you know? So I finished school and then I moved back to San Diego. And even then, I hadn't decided that I wanted to do jiu-jitsu full time. So I was already a black belt for probably a year and a half. And I just wanted to go train full time for a year, just to see what it's like to be a full-time jiu-jitsu nerd, black belt, you know, competitor. And at first I told myself 6 months, and then I'll go get a job. And then 6 months came, and then I told myself 1 year. And then 1 year came, and I was like, you know, I'm doing all right. I'm getting by right now. Like, I'm happy. I'm just gonna keep doing this. And it took more than 1 year to be a world champion. It took him 2 years. So he kept his promise. It just took a little longer. And it was actually only after I won No-Gi Worlds in 2016 that I decided that I could probably just go ahead and keep doing this. And eventually, when I'm done competing, open an academy. You know, I had a book idea actually. It was about how to make the transition from a professional life to full-time jiu-jitsu life. Because I get this question all the time, like, how did you do it? How did you drop your professional life with a lot of student loans? Like, I have a good amount of student debt that I'm responsible for. And I had a job, you know, and I gave up my job, and how do you make that transition? And it's not easy. What I always tell people is, like, you just can't be afraid to be homeless, right? That's the worst that could happen. You'll be homeless. And what does that mean? Like, the definition of homelessness is like a non-permanent residence for 6 months. And I wasn't afraid to do that. You know, I had family in California. I have friends in California. I wasn't afraid to, like, bounce around, couch surf. You know, if you accept that as something that you have to go through in order to make this transition, then it's not so scary, you know? If you just accept it, say, oh, I'm not afraid to be homeless. It's okay. Like, I train every day. I have food. I have friends to hang out with. I have a place to sleep. What else do you need? That's what I did. I didn't need the creature comforts. You know, I don't need a big flat screen TV to watch every night.
Oh, that's a tap. That's a tap.
Wow.
Josh Hinger is on point.
That might have been even faster than the first one.
Okay, so I used to have a training partner named Bo. He's a big dude, and he's a really good wrestler, and he had a lightning fast low single leg takedown, and he'd hit me with it all the time. And he'd get really low, you know, low single, like right on the ankle. The only thing I could do is sit my butt to the mat and dig my hand under his chin and grab it and make a chin strap grip, because his head is glued to my ankle. And I would literally just put my chest on the back of his head and just start squeezing his neck But he was such a big dude that he'd start flopping around, you know? He'd like roll and flip and try to get out of the choke. And I would just hold on to it and just go for a ride, you know? And we did this every day for 3 years. Anytime I can get my hand on someone's chin, I can threaten a choke, even with just one hand. And it doesn't have to be a deadly choke, but it's a super annoying choke. And it makes people react. Makes people flop their hip on the mat, you know? Like the first thing everyone wants, they flop over on their hip, you know? And then this allows me to get on top. I get a sweep or pass, or I keep the chin and I make my underhook and then I knee cut at the same time. So the person is constantly deciding between like a very annoying choke that might or might not make them tap, but they have to decide between that and the sweep, because if you defend the choke, you can't defend the sweep. If you defend the sweep, you're going to get choked, you know. And I just put everyone between these two positions, and they have to decide. And usually people give up position to survive the submission, you know. But it's getting to the point where people are very, very conscious now about where they put their heads. You know, a lot of people know I like to do this, so people are like keeping their chin down and their head tucked, and they're being very conscious of it. So now it's becoming more difficult to grab people's chins, but if I get the chin, I'm confident I will always get at least a sweep. You need to train very, very hard, right? To be a world champion, of course. Physically, you need to push your body to its physical limits, but you cannot do that without a strong mind. Then when you get to the competition, let's say you are completely physically prepared and you were able to push yourself to your physical limits. But if you get to the competition and then you let the stress and anxiety of the tournament break you, then all of that hard work is useless because you don't have the mental fortitude to back it up. So it's like it's kind of two parts to it, right? It's a mental thing in two different ways, right? You have to have the strong mindset to push yourself through training. And so this means like you go to a training camp and you train really hard, but you're only training with blue belts and purple belts, so you're winning most of your matches. But these are not the hardest roles you can have, right? There's probably another guy in the room that he's huge or strong, or maybe he's a higher belt, and maybe you duck him. In the training room, you can choose how hard you want to make your training sessions, right? No one knows how hard your training session will be, only you do. Because no one's watching you the whole time. Your coach isn't watching you the whole time. Your teammates are not watching you the whole time. They're worried about themselves. And your coach is probably watching you some of the time. It's only up to you to push yourself as hard as you possibly can. And this means to the point where you're getting destroyed by everybody, probably. If you push yourself so hard physically that you're exhausted, you just drool coming down your face, you know, and you can't even walk straight upright. And then you have to do another round. You're probably just going to get schooled by someone who's a lower belt than you, but you pushed yourself to your physical limit. This is a hard thing to do for people, for a lot of people. Even myself. Like, I have 20 black belts at home that I can train with every day. Do I train with every one of them every day? No way. Because I just don't want to get broken and beat up, and it's hard. You know, sometimes I alternate, like black, blue, black, purple, black, brown. And I know that I'm cheating myself. I know I should go black, 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 black. Or at least black, 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 purple, purple at the end, you know, or something like this. Because you have to work your offense sometime. You can't just be on defense all the time. So I think you have to have a champion mindset in training, right? And that's what this is. This is making the training as hard as you possibly can without fear of losing in training. Who cares? It's training. Who cares if you lose? If you're not losing in training, you're not training hard. For example, we do a round and then we do maybe a set of like push-ups or sit-ups or jump squats or something, like, you know, and I see a lot of people like just like kind of half-assing the jump squats, you know, because they're trying to save their energy or at least recuperate their energy for the next round. But it's not the right attitude, right? The attitude is you should push yourself as hard as you possibly can through every aspect of training. And this is what Andre Galvao does, and I've witnessed it over and over and over again for multiple training camps. When he was training for Cyborg at ADCC, he would just kill himself every training session to the point of like, I saw him fall over and go into full body cramps. Full body cramps, bro. Abs, lats, biceps, forearms, calves, everything cramped at the same time on him. He just like curled up like, and we had to like grab his limbs and stretch him out because he had just pushed himself so hard and depleted his body of all nutrients and water that he just fell apart. It was inspiring. It was truly inspiring. And JT Torres also, like I saw this guy just destroy himself in the training camps over and over again, to the point where he was like a corpse at the end. And then what, you lay down for like 20 minutes, drink some water, and then you can pick yourself up and you feel good about yourself, that you killed it in that day, you know? And then you can take this confidence in yourself that you've built through this, knowing that you push yourself as hard as you possibly could through a training camp. You can take that confidence to the tournament. And then you can tell yourself, I deserve to win. I killed it. I have no doubts about my abilities. I have cardio to go for the whole round. And you should be able to use that to go into the competition and be confident in your competition. So that's the second part, right? You need to have a positive mindset in your competition. You cannot look at your opponent and then think, oh my gosh, this is like, he's world champion, he's gonna kill me, he's gonna spider guard me and sweep me. Like, you can't think that. You have to think about, like, no, I'm prepared. I have a really good takedown. I have this really good guard pass, and I'm gonna do it to him. You have to have that positive attitude that you can do your techniques to anybody. And so even if you are prepared physically, if you don't take that confidence into the tournament and manage your anxiety and tell yourself that you're going to win, that you deserve to win, that you're prepared to win, if you don't do that, you won't win. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. This is so true.